and Gary, did you meet Gary? Gary Maurer? Oh gosh, okay.
It was late in the day, and it was unannounced. I didn't want to bother Gary.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how busy he'd be or what time it'd be. But since his door was open, after we left Ed's shop, we just went to the next driveway, pulled in, and Gary almost seemed like he was expecting us. Oh yeah, come on in, and that led to another hour.
Oh gosh, I've never been out of there less than an hour. Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay. So, I was a GMI student. All right. So I went to work for Oldsmobile right out of high school. Graduated in June. Started August 19th, 1963. All right. Co-op students, at least the first couple of years, you work everywhere. Okay. So I worked in service. I worked in a production plant, in the engine plant. I worked out final assembly. Used to kind of circulate around. After a couple of years, every 6 weeks, back and forth, work, school, year round. Not a party school at all. Okay, so then about my senior year, I worked as a foreman in the assembly plant. I really liked it. I mean, I kind of thrived on there was always something going wrong, and you were always working on problems. But I did a couple sections in product engineering. In fact, one of the first projects I worked on, he says, okay, we need a cold air induction for a 1967 W31. And it was a body group assignment. I was working for Otto Kern.
oh no kidding.
Yeah. So he says, here, cardboard, find a place to put it, cut it out, make a cardboard one, try it on the check chassis. We'll come and look at it. If we like it, we'll draw it up. It was a low volume deal, 67 W31.
Very rare.
Yeah. I mean,
You made about 12 of them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
how many.
I think that's why he gave it to me. It was like,
Well,
I don't care if it costs $200 a set. We're only going to make a few of them.
yeah.
So, anyways, I got to do that, and I had a section over the dynamometer room doing something, and run power or something. And man, I said, I'd do this job for nothing if I could feed my wife and family.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that much fun.
Good.
So, anyways, I elected to do my 5th year, which is in GMI. You go 4 years to school, back and forth. 5th year, a project. My project was combustion chamber shape effect on emissions.
Oh.
Okay, now this was 1967, late.
We were
We were real early in the emission game. Okay.
Was 68 the first thing with a PCV valve or something?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Okay.
it was all coming. There was laws already passed in California, so we knew what was on the horizon. We didn't know how tight they were going to get with the rules.
Sure.
But I worked for a guy who's from Ethel Corporation, Kelly Thurston at the time, and he was interested in hydrocarbons and carbon monoxide. That's all we were looking at that time. So I made a 1-cylinder 455 engine that had one cylinder different than the other 7. And I could independently time that cylinder. So, because I used the tack drive distributor out of like a Corvette kind of distributor.
Okay.
So I could adjust that timing different than the other one. All right. So, anyways, I did my 5th year. It was got to be the world's shortest 5th year or paper, but I got done. But everybody loved it, and I had about 4 different combustion chambers I could do flat. I did one with like a lip seal made out of stainless, that we formed a seal so that the lips were up and slit, and the pressure sealed it.
Oh,
So you had no top ring groove. That was the idea. So, anyways, that was my 5th year. And of course, the powertrain group guys were over there sticking their head in all the time. The guys, the designers, especially Gib Butler, if you know who he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, F.
Yeah.
Gibson. And so that went from there to, I had a couple years doing, starter motors and, things like that. And eventually, they brought me into the powertrain group. And Bob Stempel just moved in to replace Gilbert Burrell, and I got assigned a propane project. They wanted an engineer to do all the hardware
For a propane.
So it was a tank, regulators, lines, safety issues, all that, all the way forward. Then we had another engineer that did the engine calibration and the mixing valve, which was pretty simple on a propane car.
Stempel was the
Motor
engineer. Jackie's dad hired Bob Stempel.
Is that right?
Yeah, and
That's
then
cool.
Stempel ended up becoming the GM president.
Yeah.
Yep, later on.
Later on, yep. I run into him in Texas once at a car show. And
Oh, no kidding.
yeah, we talked quite a while. He was getting sick then. I remember he was towards the end. He was pretty rough.
Oh,
But anyway, so I got onto that project. We had it all tooled, ready to go to production. And the corporation pulled the plug on it. They got cold feet. They were afraid that people were going to drive them where they weren't supposed to. You weren't supposed to drive it on the Lodge Freeway because it was below grade. There was all tunnels, Eisenhower Tunnel, all those places, where you couldn't drive them. We weren't supposed to drive them. Obviously, people just did, So they pulled the plug on it, and at that point I got assigned an emission calibration job. No, I've got fuel tanks, fuel senders, and stuff like that. I evap. All the evap system was mine. Another guy had the tank. I had the evap, liquid loss, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
From dynamic issues.
is that when you got involved with gauge calibration?
Yep, that's another story. I'm not very good at it. So anyways, or I think I'm better than I really am. Maybe that's
That's a common affliction.
yeah. So anyways, they went from that. I got assigned California emissions. So I had to do a different calibration package for the Olds engines. 350, and it was, by then it was 455 for the state of California, because then we had, we were trying to do it on a cheap, so we didn't use an air pump, and they were really difficult to hit the right spark calibration and air fuel ratios and stuff to make them work. But anyways, we did. Finally, about 70, I gotta get my years right, roughly 76 or 7, we finally gave up on the lean calibration on our California cars. We put air pumps on them, we richened them up, which helped NOx. The air pump helped everything else.
Yep.
And they drove like dynamite. I mean, really good. To the point, Ford was trying to hire an engineer out of GM because ours were out of Oldsmobile specifically, wanted an Olds engineer. But I didn't go. But they...
Some of the other guys did.
Yeah. We did one of the Rich Powers left.
Rich Powers is not, yeah.
But anyways, then we realized the federal cars, we were going to have to do the same thing. Of course, the federal standard usually followed the California standard by
Right.
about 2 years.
Yeah.
So we did the same thing, and I stayed on the calibration all the way through 1980 model year. We were selling cars like hotcakes. I mean, I remember seeing something of what you wrote. I mean, 1 million $1,000,003. Well, maybe I would say we sold $1,003,000, $1,001,000, $1,002,000, and dealers couldn't get enough. Of course, back in about '77, we could only build 1,200,000 engines in our plant in a year.
The Olds V8 engine plant ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for a long time.
Yeah. They machined 7 days a week, assembled 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
2 shifts.
And,
And 3 shifts of machining. I mean, machining was the bottleneck. Blocks, heads, you know.
But as I recall, part of the problem with capacity was that some of our production was funneled off to Cadillac for the Sevilles, some was funneled off to Pontiac for the
Two-barrel.
Firebird,
Yep.
and so
We couldn't build enough to satisfy our Oldsmobile needs. Actually, we put Buick V6s in our Omegas. You know, what I mean, and we put 5. Was it 5? I think it was a 5-liter V8 from a Chevy in our Omegas. But everybody kind of just winked at that, you know.
right.
And you could get a 4.3 V8 Olds in the Omega.
That's right.
If you wanted it.
Yeah, 260.
So anyways, that went on. And then all of a sudden, the corporation downtown says, we got 88 B-car capacity, Olds 88 capacity, or whatever you want to build in Doraville, I think it was. But the only engines we got we can put in them are Chevys. This is 77, I think, late. And over almost every engineer's dead body, they did it. And that was kind of start of a trend to mix the powertrains up, really mix them up, okay? I remember my father-in-law retired that year, buys his last new Oldsmobile, didn't know if it had a Chevy engine in it, but the kid at the gas station told him, hey, mister, you got a Chevy engine in your Oldsmobile. And he was hot. And he never got mad. Okay.
I think that was really bad news for a lot of people. They just did not want their Olds to have anything but an Olds engine.
Okay, and that's an indicator, a symptom of the whole problem that we're going to talk about from here. See, where are we? 80. 81 become a fuel C3. It was a kind of a computer-controlled carburetor starting then.
The C3, that's right.
Yeah. But we were still putting. But by then we were still putting a lot of Chevy engines in 88s. Our 98s were all Olds engines. Tornadoes were all Olds engines. Cutlasses were a mixture. I can't remember what all we used, but
yeah.
you could get Olds engines in. But what you get to is kind of the heart of the whole automobile is really the engine, the powertrain. Then there's a lot of culture in the ride calibration. Things even as simple as fuel throttle progression. Okay. All right. A Buick always did a real quick progression on their throttles. If you know what I mean, a few angles of foot travel resulted in more acceleration. So those things were all built into the culture of the engineering center. It was kind of passed down from old engineers to young engineers, and this is the way they're supposed to be, and
right,
and that's the way I was working with guys that were, several of them were World War II vets, fighter pilots.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, and I was, here I was 24 or 5, and so anyways, but they'd been there since they got out after the war, and they were all engineers, so that was kind of the culture that I was the young guy in the group. Bob Rich came in. You ever talk to him? You'll see him tomorrow. Are you coming to breakfast in the morning?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the plan.
Yeah. Well, he was a GMI student also, as Ed was.
Was he behind you?
No, he's 5 years older than me. 86.
Oh, okay,
He's 86.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, you're just a youngster.
I'm
in the
young.
game.
Gee, yeah, just barely 8.
Man. Okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, so I switched to diesel after I got the 1980 model year gas certified. If you had enough diesel story, I mean, I didn't start on the diesel. That started in 78, 77, 78.
78, I think it went to production.
Okay. I
They
mean,
were-
it started several years before that is a development project.
One of the last things before I left the field in 76 was they were supposed to assign me, because I drove more than anybody else in the Jacksonville zone, had a bigger district geographically. They wanted me to get an early diesel, that was in 76, and just drive it, get a lot of miles on it for engineering. But it was delayed getting that group of cars out in the field, and I never got to
You
drive
never
it.
got the car, huh?
Never got the car. And I left in December of 76, so it was, that's about the time we were trying to accumulate miles. But I think 78 the first production year?
I think, yeah.
Okay.
I think that was it. So anyways, they've been in, of course, and they built a lot of volume, 78, 79, and they had a lot of problems.
Of course,
big problems. Yeah.
when I went to engineering, last 76, it was a little while before I got out of the lab and went over to experimental, and it wasn't long that we started seeing those problems. And my brother had his whole career at Detroit Diesel. Huh, what a concept. And of course now I'm seeing all these problems, and I'm thinking, holy mackerel, man, we can't have a sliding foot lifter. We got to have a roller lifter in these things. And Otto Kern was in experimental, and Art Weidman ran the show. And I remember Otto and Art, and I can't remember who I worked for at the time, but I invited my brother Doug up from Detroit Diesel. I said, do you mind if I bring my brother in here so you guys can talk about diesels? Well, yeah, you can, So we all went out to lunch. And I remember Doug saying, well, we've had roller lifters and engines in our engines since 1948.
Yeah.
And they talked about a lot of the problems, but I remember their response was, we can't afford roller lifters. I mean, that's ridiculous. We can't put those on. And we fought with that. And guess what? By 81, we had roller lifters in production to solve one of the major problems with that engine.
Yeah. But, well, they had block issues. Did Ed go through any of that with you?
Zero.
Ed? He made his whole career out of diesel.
Ed talked to me on the phone ahead of time.
Oh.
And he said, I really don't want to get into the negative about GM. I said, hey, Ed, you can talk about whatever you'd like to. We're not going to hold your feet to the fire. But, well, I spent a fair amount of my career defending GM on the diesel program in court. He said, that's what I did. I went and testified. And so we went to listen to Ed, and Ed talked about his race cars and all his fun toys. He talked very little about his corporate life.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, we won't get into a lot of detail there, but I'm saying the diesel was progressing. Roller lifters say come in 81, poppet injectors come in 80. And
Okay.
I got off the gas and I was assigned injectors.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then, before you know it, I was system engineer on calibration for emissions, and all the mechanical stuff was pretty well behind us. We still had water and fuel issues down south.
Kemmler and I worked on that a whole summer in the cold room.
Yeah.
And we got that pretty well handled.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But there was multiple problems. A lot of us guys were fighting at the same time. Solving head gaskets and da.
Oh yeah. But if you looked out in the real world, almost all the big diesel users had water separators in their systems.
Yes.
I mean, you could you could have went out and picked off the shelf everything you needed to fix your car, just about, you know.
That's right.
But anyways, we knew better, and we finally learned. But anyways, by '85 was the last of the diesels, and it was really pretty nice. It was quiet. It got good economy, was durable.
You could fuel up here and drive to Washington D.C. and not refuel.
Yep. I took like 4 guys smelt dipping in Manistee, which is way in the Upper Peninsula. Okay. 1 tank of gas.
Fuel.
778 miles.
Whoa. Was that a V8 or V6?
No, V6 88. Loaded. I mean, we had all of our gear and 4 guys all the way up and down.
Oh my gosh. That's impressive.
So they were, I mean, but by then the word was out, they were poison, you know.
Exactly.
You couldn't sell them. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a shame because we didn't have to suffer that reputation.
No. Up front we could have done it, maybe delayed it a year, fixed the block issue, which was a terrible issue. I was good. Here's the little anecdote I heard. We tested Olds engines, and it was our internal goal to run 1,000 hours wide open throttle and cycled, wide open throttle and cycled between peak torque and peak power. Okay?
That's cool.
So you could do it on a dynamometer. I mean, and so you'd squeeze it down to about 2,800 and then let it go up to 5,000 and then squeeze it down again and just hold the throttle wide open. You do that for 1,000 hours.
1,000 hours is a long time.
And you tear it apart and look at the bearings, and if everything's good, go to production. Well,
it's called a GMC cycle.
GMC cycle.
Now, the corporate number, if I remember right, was 100 hours?
Might have been. I don't know what the corporate number was.
A long time ago, the corporate number was 100 hours, and I may have been off a little bit, but then Olds typically at least doubled that.
Yeah.
And then it seems like every successive program we doubled that. Yeah. And so we were up around 1,000 hours on a test, an engine durability test that was only supposed to go 1/10 that.
Yeah.
And yet we, on some tests like that where you're right, I mean right to the mat, going from $3,000 or whatever to $5,000 and back and forth, and there's a slow cycle. It's like a 30-second cycle or something like that. And this engine is just
glowing red,
screaming, and the exhaust manifolds are just beat red, and this thing is just hour after hour after hour. This isn't just pulling a hill. This is like driving from Florida and back a whole bunch of times. And this thing, I mean, what's it take you? 15 hours or so to go to Florida at that speed. Yeah. And this is 15 hours. This is 1,000 hours. This is like its whole life. It's wide frickin' open. And it'll pass that. And so you think, man, oh man, that's one durable product.
Well, we did the same thing with the diesel. And even the early diesel, we could do 1,000 hours. But the difference was, the diesel didn't make much power. And half the power, probably. What'd they make? 150?
Oh, yeah, on a good day, probably.
Yeah, okay. Well, we found, so it would pass. We said, well, that's good. And out in the field, they started breaking blocks, things that you should have found, we thought, on the GMC cycler. Well, come to find out, people don't drive their cars wide open throttle, peak torque, peak power, unless it's a diesel. Diesels, everybody gets in them, and we just, and they, we were heavy cars, 150 horsepower, and everybody drove it that way all the time. Well, they caught up with us. So we changed the diesel test to 2,000 hours. We could break stuff, and then they fixed the blocks, fixed whatever they needed to fix. And we were okay for durability after that.
But there's one other thing that the diesel sees full charge of air every cycle.
time.
There, it's not throttled.
Yeah.
And a gas engine runs under a fair amount of throttle.
All the
So
time.
there's quite a lot of intake vacuum most of the time.
We've saw cars that come back with 50,000 miles on them from a customer, and the secondaries on the carburetor had never been open.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so I mean, a good percentage of the driving public doesn't drive like us engineers. That's what I'm getting at. I mean,
Probably a good thing.
yeah. You know, my grandpa, my father-in-law, they never used the secondaries on the carburetor. Yeah.
Well, then there was other issues in the field with the diesel that were it was difficult to really. You shouldn't be blaming the manufacturer or the customer, and that is if there was a lot of water in the fuel, and that was a pretty.
And the water would attack our pump. We had some fiber materials in the pump that water would eventually deteriorate. Standardized made our pumps, and very good manufacturer and everything, but they weren't used to working with water in the fuel, you know, and that got us. But anyways, so we'll cut off at 85. All right, I got out of the diesel business, and the whole corporation exploded. 1985. Oldsmobile was no longer Olds Motor Works, where we designed, built our own products in-house, and we were just a marketing group, Olds marketing group. All the engineering was turned over to a central engineering group. I don't know if it was technically called like BOC engineering or what, but there was a powertrain group, and then a group that did everything else. And the marketing group was that the whole theory was that they would work with design staff, come up with our car design. Of course, there's a lot of constraints to commonize parts, even at design staff, the glass and, you know, the architecture was all common. Olds, Buick, Pontiac, Cadillac, for a lot of car series. Anyways, I worked at design staff quite a bit. After I stayed with the marketing group, so I was no longer part of GM engineering. I was an engineer in the marketing group. Oldsmobile ended up with about maybe 8 engineers, counting it was Denny and Porterfield. And then we had, each car line had an engineer, Scott, Ruster, Merriman Casey, Russ Oltman. All right.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And they ultimately reported to me. I guess all those guys did. They were on their own most of the time. But we'd have regular reviews every week at Design Center from Warren, looking at what was coming. And
Did Dennis and Bill Porterfield work for you?
Yeah.
In the,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, on paper, okay? I mean, I didn't direct their day-to-day too much. Bill and I worked together on advanced concepts, but Bill spent a lot of time on Aerotech. And, I mean, that was, he was pretty much on his own there. The motorsport stuff was Denny, and he worked public relations on that, but he reported to me.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I just got free tickets to drag races once in a while.
Well, there's
Something
nothing
like
wrong with
that.
that.
Nothing wrong with that. So, so at that point, the whole idea was these engineering groups would listen to us, tell them what we wanted, and they would build an Oldsmobile for us. Of course, they were being directed to cut costs, commonize, you know, so they were being graded on one thing, and you know, in theory, we were telling them what to do, and that didn't work. Now, there was a paper generated, what makes an Oldsmobile an Oldsmobile?
Oh.
I don't have mine anymore. But I think Porterfield has one. If we could lay our hands on that. It was only 6 or 8 pages, you know, something like that, but it was kind of the essence of Oldsmobile, because we saw this about 86 or 7, we say, well, this idea ain't working.
Yeah.
Because people are realizing these cars are all the same, except for the sticker on the side, you know. In fact, there was a picture lining up of Olds 88, that's 1986, okay. Olds 88, Pontiac Bonneville, Buick LeSabre,
Yeah.
and a Cadillac
DeVille.
all right, all lined up. Maybe they were little C cars, but they all lined up so you could just see the top, the roof, and the trunk lid, and of all of them lined up. You know, you couldn't tell them apart.
Was that about the time it seemed to me that there was an awful lot of corporate money funneled off by Roger Smith, funneled off to Saturn?
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I mean, they didn't reveal where the money was going.
Okay.
You know, but obviously it took a lot of money to set up Saturn, and that's the same thing. See what I'm saying? It's cutting places.
Yeah.
Darn farmers. So anyways, we did the best we could with what we had. I mean, we had, later we integrated closer with a marketing group. So we had marketing teams. This would be, I'm going to move a step forward till about 90. And so they ended up with an unclassified supervisor, that wasn't me, over each marketing team. And they had one for the Aurora, for the Bravada, for the Alero, for the Silhouette, and what would we have by then? I can't remember, in the 88, 98. So they had a marketing group, so you had a salesperson, a service person, an engineer, a bean counter, all on the same team. And then that's about as good as we got. You gonna be okay? Hey, yeah. I got all sorts of things to drink. Iced tea, homemade cider.
I'm okay.
Okay. You swallow a fly? But you guys like something to drink? We can take a break. I think we ought to take a break, at least till Ted's back with us.
I will survive.
Would you like, seriously, would you like iced tea or cider or anything like that?
Iced tea sounds good.
What's that?
Iced tea sounds
Iced
good.
tea, how about you?
I'd love some cider.
Cider, yeah, you better try my cider.
Oh, okay. I like cider.
Well, we got both.
I like cider.
You like
Need
cider?
need any help bringing anything out?
Yeah. I gotta get to my cane in here. Come on in.
Are you serious?
I got a fly in my throat.
No, not a frog, just a fly.
What did you want to drink? Ted? Ted, what would you like to drink?
He went around the corner here. I don't think he hears me.
No, we've got
Are you coming out?
I'm gonna get a
Rick cider?
Oh, that'd be great. Put your notes over here
Yes,
under,
thank you.
just so I have it next door. I apologize. Didn't mean to break up the party.
No, not at all. I'm hoping this is helping here with the wind. Should be.
If it doesn't turn out good, we'll just redo it.
Well, I think the great thing with going with the transcription then is, regardless of the audio quality, I'll have the words. So
Good,
it can be
yeah.
broken up, it can be whatever. I'll have the words, and that's the important thing right there.
I'm finding this exchange pretty darn helpful, at least for my history and recollection of what's going on. Because much of what happened later on in the 80s and 90s, especially in the 90s, I was off in vehicle development, and then later on, when they centralized engineering, moved moved everything out of Lansing down to
was in the body for
three
the
different
powertrain group.
places. That I think a powertrain went to Pontiac, and then there was a large bunch of people that went down to the tech center, and then some down to the Ren Center downtown Detroit. But when they did that, I ended up getting an office at the Milford Proving Ground. But about the same time, Jack Voorhees decided, in our group decided, hey, we need to make the group smaller. So Ted, find yourself a different job. Oh, what? So I started calling around, and I'd come from experimental powertrain, and so I wanted to go back there. But Joe Jones and the guys said, "Ooh, no, sorry, we ain't taking you back. We don't have room for you." So I thought, well, I'm kind of like a fish out of water here. I don't know what to do. So I found Charlie Porter had a Q-Tech group out in the plant. Well, guess what? They're going to stay with the plant. So, hey, Charlie, you need some help? Hey, yeah, I could, sure do. So, kind of like over a weekend, I found a new job and worked with the production people, but out of product engineering, and that worked out well. I worked in the Fisher Body plant on the west side of Lansing, and then in between the two final assembly plants in Building 150 for a while. And so I was kind of out of the loop of where the rest of the product engineers went and what they did.
Well, you could see everything just kind of got dynamited. So all the Olds culture just got diluted out into space,
Yes.
so to speak. So I say Oldsmobile all become these marketing groups, and it stayed that way all the way to the end. We had several general managers. The most outspoken one we had was John Rock. He was he was next to the last one. But a guy named Ron Zarella come in to run General Motors from Bosch and Lam. And
I'd forgotten that until this morning. Dennis told us.
yeah, well, Zarella didn't like Oldsmobile. And so that was one of the counts against us. I mean, obviously, if you're going to build them all like, how many marketing groups do you need? So ultimately Oldsmobile left. I heard we had like 3,500 dealers. We only needed half that, probably.
But so many of the small dealers were duals with, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you go to a small Georgia town or something and you have one dealer handles all the GM,
Yeah.
including one of my dealers when I was a district service manager in Georgia. The showroom was filled with Frigidaire appliances, and you'd swear the guy was a wash machine sales
Trying to make a
store.
living, that's what you're trying to do.
That wasn't it at all. It's, you could put one or two cars in the showroom, but then he wouldn't have any room. His wash machines would have to sit outside. So all the GM appliances, GM Frigidaire was owned by
Oh,
GM.
okay.
All the GM appliances were in the store, and all the cars were out in the parking lot. And so he handled all the lines, all the GM lines. So he was the local GM dealer, and it makes a lot of sense. And how expensive is it for Olds to have a point in Bainbridge, Georgia, or not? It seems to me it wouldn't cost very much money,
Well,
but maybe that's franchise sorts of agreements. And
there
you
was
could-
rules, and then we said, oh, if you want to carry the Aurora, you got to have all this training. You got to have
Special tools.
Special tools, yeah. I mean, that was all part of it.
Okay.
And how many dealers do you need to sell 300,000 cars versus 1.2 million? You know, and that's part of the deal. That was part of what they were looking at.
I see. Okay.
So I was done in '99, but at the end I was working show cars, show car group with the press, design staff liaison, and special stuff. We did a navigation system. That we were the first ones in GM with a navigation system called GuideStar. Bill probably told you about that, did he, at all?
No, we heard about it, but we were hoping that you could touch on that.
Well,
Was that an offshoot of OnStar?
no, okay, we were, OnStar hated us. We were approached by a company called Zexel. Zexel makes torsion differentials. They make starter motors. They make all sorts of stuff. They're a Japanese company.
Okay.
But they wanted to get off in the electronics business, and they had an algorithm that could take, I was trying to think of the name of the company, in Silicon Valley that makes all the mapping, does all the mapping for Google Maps and stuff. It's oh well. Anyways, it's a company owned by Rupert Murdoch that decided we're gonna digitize map. It started out with the big cities, and now it's every street pretty much in the world. Okay, and he did it with college students in the summertime, and did so they had all the cities already done, big cities, particularly Detroit and Lansing, and Lansing's a big city, but they had them all done. And so they came to us with this little box and says, okay, we can do pretty much what Google Maps does. Only at that point, GPS was controlled by the military with an offset. If you know what I mean, back in 80, would have been maybe 85, 86, in that time frame. They kept moving. You had to know the code to correct it, but it was close. Okay, it was within 100 yards pretty much all the time. But they didn't want somebody using our own GPS to bomb us.
To target.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So they used what we called map matching. So you had to carry the map with you. You took the GPS and you had to say, okay, he must be here. He's not out in this field. He must be here, okay? So they're called map matching. So you had a screen, you had your car, You could put in an address and it would take you to it. And we worked with them on perfecting some of the driver interface to make it customer friendly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Bill and I worked with them on that. They did invite us out to the company, and we could talk to them. But there was no Garmin yet. There was no nothing. Okay, it was all they'd spent a ton of money on this. Zexal got a license to use it, and we were buying product from them.
I see. Okay.
So we only sold maybe 1,000. I don't know if we sold 1,000 of them, but it was kind of a promotion thing. It was at a car show. It was dynamite. Drive when you drove them, because people had never seen Google Maps. I mean, the first time you use Google Maps, you go like, "Holy cow, this is something." You know.
Sure.
Well, we were showing them that back in the '80s. All right.
Wow.
We didn't use cell phones for it or anything. Well, meanwhile, OnStar was bubbling up, and they were going to use the cell network, and you'd sell a subscription, and you know, and they'd talk you someplace. They didn't have a screen at that time.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But because we didn't have screens in cars in the '80s,
That's right. Sure.
we put a little. Our little screen was like 3.5 or 4. It was 4-inch diagonal, I think. Screen we had.
Wow.
Little buggy. And we had to make a bayonet mount because there was no place in the dash for it. So we had, you know, it was. So, anyways, that was the lead in. And we'd be in meetings, corporate meetings with GuideStar or OnStar, and they were insisting on selling subscription stuff, and we were saying, man, I don't know, and I was in there with we just have smartphones. I'm trying to think when the very first smartphones come out, but we had phones that would flip open with a screen, and I was trying to convince everybody, people don't want to buy another cell service for their car.
Exactly.
To talk to OnStar. They want their own phone. Just bring it in, plug it in the car. When I get out, I take my phone, fold it up, put it in my pocket. You know, and they didn't want to hear that.
I can imagine. Yeah.
And they, anyways, so hence, obviously, they're still alive, and GuideStar is not, but they've changed. I mean, their whole way they feed information into the car now is on a screen, because cars all have screens.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But you still got to have a cell connection to the car.
Yeah.
You're not using your own phone. So, anyways, that was kind of the. And I retired in '99.
Can I ask about GuideStar? Did
Yeah.
you think that was something that was going to catch on or be common? Because I read online that you were like a big proponent of keeping the cost down and not making it too expensive.
Well, yeah, I can't remember what it was. It was never going to be high volume at the price we had to get for it. It was something you might sell. You'd sell somebody that checked all the boxes in their 98 or an Aurora or something like that. Just the way we had to do it, it wasn't portable. You could put it in a car and move it to another car, but it wasn't quick. You know, I mean, you'd have to. We had to carry the whole database with us. Okay, there was no cell connection. Okay, so we had what they call a PCM-CIA memory cards. I mean, this is way back. About every week, the memory doubled and the cost dropped. You know, I mean, this is back when memory was getting real cheap. But when we started this program, memory was real expensive. And I'm not a audiophile or techie when it comes to electronics. But I just remember this. They kept coming saying, "Well, we can do the whole state of Michigan now. We can do the whole eastern everything east of the Mississippi on one drive. You know, you go like, whoa. So that was changing every 6 months, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's tough
Yeah.
when you're in the hardware business, automotive manufacturing, to keep up with all this electronic stuff. It's changing faster than you can even tool up and put
Yeah.
stuff in production.
Yeah. That's what you don't print brochures anymore. They change so fast, you might as well, you know, just check our website, you know, for the
Exactly.
latest. Yeah.
Yeah, way cheaper to do a website than
Yeah.
print a few million brochures.
Yeah.
That'll be out of
Have
date
them obsolete next
in
week.
2 months. Yeah, that's right.
So anyways, what you got anything else on GuideStar?
I had no specific questions. I mean, I think you explained it in great detail there. Thank you for that. I just have some more general questions I'd like to ask. So specific to like advanced concepts, were there any other projects you worked on that were particularly memorable?
Oh, let's see. Oh man. Well, I'll tell you one little story here. Turn signal on, remind me. Okay. You know, if you turn signal on and you go around a cloverleaf on a freeway, it won't cancel. And
Have to straighten the wheel back out to
yeah,
cancel.
straight. Yeah, yeah. You have to get enough. You have to get enough angle to catch the switch to turn it off. Okay.
Yes.
So I mean, you see, the old joke is, you know, you see Buick drivers and old Olds drivers driving down the road with their turn signal on, right? Well, he says, gee, maybe there's a way we could tell people after you go so far, so many clicks. By then, we had electronic speedometers that were sending a signal to a computer, and we were calculating fuel economy. So we had a little box on our dash that would calculate instantaneous fuel economy for you, you know. And I said, we were sitting around brainstorming. I said, well, what if after you went 0.3 of a mile, your chime started chiming at you in the same rhythm that the turn signal was blinking? And so I went to Frank Ball. He was the assistant chief engineer in the NCAR group. I mean, they were close to us. The only reason I went the NCAR group because they were close to us.
Okay.
Okay. And I says, well, this little box gets a signal. Why can't we just trip a switch with the same signal and tell somebody their turn signal's on? And it didn't seem like they didn't want to mess with it because it was kind of an anomaly. See, we're trying to do something different for Oldsmobile, and they were trying to make all the little boxes the same, of course. But I insisted we finally made a prototype, and it was who's the guy that left Olds and went to Spartan Motor? You don't remember him from Body Group?
Went to Spartan Motors?
Went to Spartan Motor, and he was like general manager over there, or chief engineer.
No, I don't know.
Okay, I can't remember his name. But anyways, he, I convinced him to make a prototype. Okay, we put it in the car and let Frank drive it. All right, and everybody, geez, that looks pretty good, you know. So ultimately, we found that we could take that same design and put it through almost all of our car line as a feature. Turn signal on reminder. And I think we were the first ones to have that feature.
Okay.
The other one was remote start.
Oh.
Okay, you can't do remote start unless you got fuel injection.
I was just going to say, carburation probably doesn't like that.
Yeah, something choke.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we saw we didn't come up with the idea, but somebody in experimental in the NCAR group, when the Quad 4 was full fuel injected car, I don't know, we had another one at that point. Maybe the Buick 3800 was. I don't know, maybe it was TBI, I can't remember. But the Quad 4 was definitely a fuel injected. And he took me. That guy had one. He jury rigged one up. Go out, hit the button on a fob, and start. You know. So I had him put one in some of our, at least one of our company cars that I was driving, and I started showing people that feature. They'd never seen it, you know. I mean, just the general public. I'd stand. Well, I take my kids were. I'd say, go out and touch the hood emblem. They go out and touch the hood emblem, and I'd start it, you know, and I'd go, whoa. You know? Yeah, see how that works, you know. Well, anyways, I had I had 6 kids here at one time. So anyways, that was another one that kind of come out of our group. So we got right behind that and pushed that to get remote start. Because that's something you think about in Michigan, but it really works good in Phoenix too.
Oh, sure.
Where are you from, by the way?
I'm from New York, upstate New York.
Upstate New York.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So this cider is amazing.
Uh-huh.
I can put my stamp on it. The cider is great.
That's good cider.
That's frozen. You can freeze it fresh, and boy, it's just like fresh when you drink it.
It is
Now,
delicious.
you make this.
Yeah. Last October. Yeah.
This is really good.
Yeah, you just we freeze up maybe 20 of them, you know, in half-gallon jugs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, when you come out this time of year, it tastes pretty good when you
Oh man, yes.
Boy,
drag it out and drink it. Yeah. There's more in there. You guys can drink that whole one up if you want.
Of
So
course, you're famous for your maple syrup.
maple
also.
syrup too. Yeah. Well,
And the maple syrup.
No, it's down the road. It's where my wife grew up, 5 miles back this way. My son owns it now.
But the the maple sap comes from down there.
Yeah,
Okay.
and evaporators down there. The whole
Okay.
process is down there. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
So you're from upstate New York. You know how maple syrup's made.
I've helped. We had a family friend who would make it.
Yeah.
A lot of cooking it.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Well, it's changed. Maybe since you know what reverse osmosis is?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, we got into doing it that way about 5 years ago, and once you've got started using that, you don't go back. It saves a lot of work, getting rid of a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, that's what I used to farm this place, take care of the apple trees, do the maple syrup, and try to keep Oldsmobile going along with the 6 kids here. Yeah.
what'd you do in your spare time?
Yeah. Well, we didn't do much.
Built neat hot rods.
Yeah. Well, I'll show you my truck before we go, probably. You like cars?
I love cars.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I own an Oldsmobile. That was how I got into this. In the first
Zach,
place.
you own an Oldsmobile?
Yeah.
What do you got?
I have a 1993 Achieva SCX.
Yeah.
W41.
W41.
Oh, a W41. Oh, gee. Yeah. Take care of that one.
Oh, I am. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of who else I know that's got a W41. Somebody in the service group's got one. Okay.
Kerner's got one.
Kerner does?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Kevin drove one to college, and he's got it. We saw it yesterday. He's got it in his. Ed's got it in his shop or his barn.
I've never been in that barn. So.
That's amazing.
Is that right?
Oh man, it just goes one gorgeous, beautiful street rod after another, on and on and on and on. And they're not all street rods. He's got his Rambler that's just dead stock, and it's just gorgeous. Actually, 2 Ramblers, and well,
What does he call the one? Miss somebody. It's he drove it to breakfast once in a while.
His baby blue one, I think he calls what, Nellie?
Or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Millie.
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 I can't. Yeah, it's Millie. You're right.
So I think, did he have he didn't have a Studebaker, did he?
I don't recall seeing
Okay.
it. So you retired in '99.
Yeah, I retired, and then I stayed on a contract for
That's
a
right,
few years, doing show car stuff with an outside firm. Then I turned my head around again and went on retainer for a few companies to do quality control for some vendors into the Lansing assembly plants.
yeah. Okay.
One fuel tank vendor out of for Adrian, and a stamp metal supplier out of Ontario,
Oh, okay.
Van Rob. They make a lot of black metal parts.
Okay.
I mean, it was this tariff thing. When they started talking about this tariff thing, and I go, oh my gosh, there's a steady stream of trucks, nose to tail, coming from Toronto across the Ambassador Bridge into the United States. And parts going the other way, you know, to get a lot of. I mean, they made parts in Grand Haven, Michigan, shipped them to Ottawa, up that way, welded them into parts, shipped them back to Lansing. You know what I'm saying? And there were high strength roll form parts out of Grand Haven.
Oh, wow.
The reason I knew that was I went in one morning and they said, we're down to our last part in the Grand River Assembly Plant to build a car. Where's your next shipment? And I started calling around, and the plant in Grand Haven broke down the night before, about 4 in the afternoon, called Van Rob up in Ontario, says they were broke. They called Material Control in Lansing, and they'd gone home, so they left a message. So there was a whole, you know, that big a gap, and I come in and they said, we've already got these cars scheduled. You know, they schedule them hours ahead.
Sure.
And they didn't have any parts. So we started chartering flights from Grand Haven to, you know, to get them welded into parts in Ontario to bring them back to Lansing. and we, you know, we get fined. They were vicious if you're a supplier and you screw up the production deal.
Sure. It's big. When the plant's running, it's big dollars every hour.
Oh man, I learned. I mean, you had to schmooze the guys that could help you in the plant. I mean, that was part of the deal. But I mean, they were good guys. A lot of them, you know, would do what was right. Like if we left a weld nut out in a part that's welded into the body, and all of a sudden they go and there's no place to put this bolt, you know.
Bolt won't drive into it.
No, and they said you bought the body, you know, the whole thing,
Yeah.
body in white. They go, come on, you know.
How do we
And the
fix
guy
it?
says, yeah, I can put a rib nut in there and fix that. You know, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not in the book. It says you can use a rib nut, but a rib nut will work. So I could get them to do something like that once in a while.
But
Yeah.
exacerbating that exact problem, supply chain problems, was just in time
Oh, yeah.
delivery. Like, we don't want any bank of parts here because all those parts are costing money sitting there. I mean, they're going out and more are coming in to replace them, but you have a bank to work from, which makes sense. Except all those parts are costing you money all the time. If you're down to just in time, the truck pulls in and you use them, that's way more efficient from a cost standpoint until
something hiccups.
the truck gets a flat tire or something, and you have to shut the plant down. And the same sort of thing is way back in the decades ago. We always had a secondary supplier. So if a machine broke at this plant, you could have these guys work overtime or something and keep everything going. Except, gee, that's expensive to have two sets of tools or whatever. And so we don't need that. We can single source this. until it works great until it doesn't
Until it
work.
doesn't. Yeah.
And those are things that engineers fought all the time.
I remember, I mean, one of the things I was taught, and I learned it when I come into the powertrain group, you kept two suppliers making a part, and you kept the third supplier hungry, trying to beat their price or make a better part, you know. And that was kind of what development engineers did, whether it was valve springs or thermostats or whatever, you know.
Yep. And then competitors are always trying to come in the door and underbid the guys that were selling you parts at that moment. And it could be a GM sister division supplying Delco Marine, selling you a master cylinder, selling you 100,000 master cylinders to go on the B car diesel or something, whatever it was. And then Bill Monroe comes in from South Bend and Bendix. He's a Bendix guy. Hey Ted, how would you like to buy master cylinders from us? Well, gee, the master cylinder looks pretty darn good. Looks like it's the right diameter and the right weight, right da 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 da. And you run them on a car, and yeah, it's pretty good. What's it cost? Well, the price of buying a master cylinder from a sister division is called corp variable. It's kind of the cost within the GM to supply the part versus somebody buying something from somebody else on the outside. So the outside vendor has to fight a corp variable cost for an engineer to decide, gee, I ought to buy this guy's on the outside versus an inside. Mm-hmm. And that's one where I think on the diesel B car it was $6.21 a master cylinder cheaper to buy a Bendix versus a corporation Delco Marine master cylinder. And I went to see Schofield and I think Walt Freiberg, the two guys in the chassis group, and my gosh, we can save $6.21 a car. Just buy it from Bendix. Well, no, we'll have to go through and that decision I think went to the 14th floor of the GM, 14th floor, right? That was like where the
we always use that term. That was where the last stop at the GM building, 14th floor.
I think that was before they moved over to the Red Center.
Yeah,
Who knows where it was then. And I think that fight went all the way to the 14th floor, and that's one that I won.
You won.
I won that one. They said, sure. So it's engineers get into a lot of interesting discussions and battles and stuff.
Yeah, we get. Well, there was a lot of things you say. You wanted to add some little feature to your carburetor, okay? Rochester Products. There was only one supplier for Rochester Products.
Yeah.
So you add that feature, and then 6 months later you say, yeah, we don't need that feature. Take it out. It costs you money going both ways.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And they know they got you, you know.
And especially, we'll taking it out, mess up service. If you had the service, the part that had the change, had the feature on it, or whatever. You always had to look at pull aheads and service, and oh my gosh, you're going to mess the customers up. And should you change it? If it's materially different, you better change the part number, and interesting things you get into.
Are we too windy out here? We can go inside. Whatever you think.
I'm fine.
I think it should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
No
temperature-wise, it isn't bad. It's just blowing.
And again, I'm going to cut a transcription of this, so the audio itself is just like for me to have the information there. If you don't mind, I want to ask a question which probably isn't quite easy to answer, but you've approached it a little bit. Was there any way that you approached a unique like design or engineering or style for Oldsmobile, given kind of the changes that were happening within GM and trying to like centralize a lot of the products?
Oh man, let's see. Let me figure out how. There's some examples of that. I mean, we sat down and spent hours trying to describe the essence of what Oldsmobile was. So, because all of a sudden you took Chevrolet people, Buick people, Pontiac people, and they had free reign over your product. So they'd never worked on an Oldsmobile. In fact, they didn't like Oldsmobile because we were internally very competitive.
Yep.
Okay. We looked at the sales numbers and we looked at Ford, Chrysler, Buick, Olds, and we didn't. It was all in our mind. They were all competitors. All right, and that's a strength. I mean, it's a strength in that everybody's scrambling to do their very best, and of course the corporation's looking at costs and all that as well, and reliability. Here comes the boss side, just making sure you didn't park in your spot.
Well, that's why I parked over there.
You did good. Yeah. So, anyways, we spent a lot of hours trying to describe that to these people. Of course, like I told you earlier, they were under pressure to commonize, to make them as low cost as possible. So we were going in different directions in a lot of cases. Back, it was when I was working on the 1980 calibration. I was working with another engineer, and we were back in Michigan. We were working together at the Doing Grounds, and we were doing all the 80 Oldsmobile V8 calibration was done at the desert at their lab.
Oh,
Rich Taylor was there.
oh yeah.
Okay, so we got a call that says, hey, we need to take 3 or 4 of our cars, our development cars, take them down to Milford and park them on the hill, cold start pad. We're going to meet Chevrolet down there in the morning. I go, Chevrolet. We never talked to Chevrolet, all right? But somehow the Chevrolet, one of the big bosses, got a hold of our boss, and I was trying to think of who it was at that time. If it was Haas, but it don't matter. He said, we want to meet down at the cold pad. So we're going to cold start cars. And it was about a 40-degree morning, something like that, 30-degree mornings. And we'll just start like 4 Chevrolets, drive them away, and we're going to start 4 Oldsmobiles, drive them.
Cold start and cold drive
start.
away.
Yeah, okay. And we just stood back, you know. It was the big bosses were starting them. All right.
Okay.
And then we meet in a conference room. Okay, so the trick with a carbureted car with a choke is you start it, you drive about 100 yards, stop, and you go wide open throttle, and it'll flame out. Okay, yeah. Well, automatic transmissions now. Okay, you drive a manual, I know. Well, our cars wouldn't flame out. We had that choke cycle nailed, and they drove great. We go in and compare emission numbers, fuel economy numbers. We beat every Chevrolet engine for engine, 350s, big block, all of that. And so that was kind of a, you know, engineers don't get to go head to head like that very often. So that was quite a deal, you know, to
Sure.
be able to do that. I guess they didn't have big blocks there. They had just 350s and 5 liters. And that's what we had, 350s and 5 liters. I don't think we took a 403 out there. But anyway, that was that was the deal. And I knew at that time our cost to produce was every bit as cheap as Chevy, and our reliability, they have a way of rating cost, service cost, the warranty cost, I'm
Sure.
sorry. And we were, you know, very good compared to that. So, nonetheless, Chevrolet ended up winning out with a corporate engine because they had more capacity with Tonawanda, you know.
Politics.
Yeah. So that may have been leading into the decision of whose engine to keep. I guess we built V8s through 85, gas.
Yeah, in there someplace.
85 or 6, I don't know. So anyways, there was all sorts of little things that you had to overcome. But I can't think of I can't think of anything that's right at the top of my head here to help you with that question.
No worries there. Another question I have is, so regarding, you know, late 80s through the 90s with sales decreasing, did you feel that there was any impact on the environment of like work within Oldsmobile? Was there any added pressure to try and like turn that around?
Well, yeah, there was a lot of pressure. You know, design staff was doing all they could do, and that, of course, I wasn't involved with design staff until after about 86, I'd say, 86. 86 model year was the first time I went down, so it must have been 85. I went down there working on the new Tornado. But they were trying hard because this whole corporate reorganization didn't really affect design staff. We still had an old studio, Studio 1, Studio 2, and an interior studio. So we had 3 studios at Design Center. And you were, you know, one studio was working on the further out thing, and then that one's working on one a little closer, and then the interior studio was working on everything, you know. And they were trying hard. And who was our ad agency out of Chicago?
Leo Burnett.
Leo Burnett. That was not your father's Oldsmobile.
Well, Leo had been the Olds ad agency
Forever.
contact, or it was their deal for decades.
Decades.
Do you know? Can you speak to as I'm teeth gnashing for a long time, years, saying why on earth do we continue to go with Leo Burnett when there probably are ad agencies that would love to have the Oldsmobile business
Account. Yeah.
the account. Thank you, and I would think Leo's past performance would indicate at least the Olds folks should be looking around. And can you speak a little to
Well,
that?
I can a little. I mean, after first, I was just an engineer, so I didn't
Yeah.
get into. I didn't know first thing about ads and marketing or nothing, you know. So they'd call us engineers into the new Oldsmobile group.
Yeah.
3 or 4 of us. They'd call us in, and they'd start going through storyboards trying to promote the next new car was coming out, you know. And we go like, whoa, you know, these guys are crazy almost. And then they this Not Your Father's Oldsmobile ad, they were doing storyboards on that and everything. Well, it says, man, well, those are really cool ads, but a lot of it's kind of fluff, you know. It doesn't make. We're more down to earth. The way engineers are, you're thinking more mechanical stuff. You
Sure.
know, well, so what, you know? But anyways, after that ad come out and it got panned, you know, pretty much.
but it has lasted. It has endured. You know, they say any advertising is good advertising, even bad advertising or bad press.
If you remember it.
You remember it. People remember that. Not only, I mean, they use that same tagline. Not Oldsmobile. It's not your father's window treatment or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
You know, that it's not your father's ... fill in the blank on everything.
Yep. Unfortunately, we didn't have product to back it up. You know.
Well, and the history, the maybe ancient history of Oldsmobile has been very good, very dynamic, very very progressive and high performance, and the rocket V8s and all this stuff. That was our father's Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
We like that. It's what we've degraded down to.
Yeah.
We want to get back to our father. You know, so that can be kind of taken.
That's
two
what
ways.
bit us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. My father's Oldsmobile was pretty good. So, anyways, after that, there was some stir to go find another agency.
Oh, there was.
There was. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if Leo. I remember it was a big deal. If you're going to change ad agencies, I mean, they had a whole team looking at other ad agencies. I mean, full-time job looking at other agencies.
Oh.
I don't know if I don't think it was anybody from our immediate group, but from marketing and from sales and service, looking at other ad agencies. And ultimately we stayed with Leo Burnett as far as I know, right to the end. But don't know. You know, they didn't invite me to those decision-making meetings, but I do remember guys pretty much set aside their full-time job and just worked on interviewing other ad agencies.
Very interesting.
Chivy's got the same one that they've had, I think, forever too.
Is that right? Okay. Now they do not have Leo Burnett, I presume. I mean, it was a different ad agency.
Yeah, different, totally different. I don't know if every marketing division had a different agency, but I know Chivy's and Olds were different. And
Okay.
I ought to be able to think who. Chivy's is a very famous name.
Okay.
Ad agency.
And there's been some interesting taglines that came out of their marketing.
Oh man,
you know,
like a rock. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Yeah. Like, was it Bruce Seeger or who sang that song?
I think it was Seeger.
Yeah. I don't know what do you suppose he made off of that one? Just with Chevrolet ad. Yeah.
I'm sure he's not gotten poor out of that.
No. So,
Let's see. I wanted to ask about some projects. I guess you were a part of at Oldsmobile. Anything that you're proud of having been involved in, no matter how small, or you mentioned like the key fob, or if it was like a one-off thing that never actually turned into something. Any of these things that you just are proud of having been involved with?
I think my thing I was most proud of was the ability to I developed the skill of being able to read engines, to make them start, drive, pass emissions, get great economy, and it's kind of, you give an engineer a target, and you have very critical supervisors that go out and ride with you every morning. We used to drive cars. Cold start, I mean, it's not, sometimes it ends with coffee and donuts, but you got to go out and go through about 10 cars, cold starting them in the morning and driving them cold, then warm, and do that day after day and make incremental changes. Park them, do it again the next. Part of them you go to the emission lab and run emission tests. Part of them you park outside and drive, and you keep making little incremental changes until the deadline where you got to say, okay, that's it for next year, and then we start on the following year.
Yeah, the adage was, It's time to shoot the engineer and go to production.
Yeah, yeah. And Bob Rich was the epitome of that, and you'll meet him tomorrow. But he was the guy. He'd be following the first car down the assembly line, still making adjustments. We get called. I mean, I get called. Here's another little side story. I told you I did California packages early on. Okay, and we had our 260 engine went in the Omega. The Omega was built in Van Nuys, California.
Oh,
Okay. I get a call from quality control, a guy named Roger Harris. You know who Roger Harris is?
I remember him.
Roger says, "Holy cow! They just flunked 10 Oldsmobiles in a row at Van Nuys." And you go like, "What?" Well, you have to pass 90%. Okay, if you flunk 10 in a row, how many do I have to pass to make up for that hole?
Yeah.
You know, so I say, stop testing. You know, just set them aside, right? We only had to do, I don't know what you had to do 5% of your cars or 2%. You didn't have to do all of production. You know? Yeah. So he says, we better get out there and see what's going on. You know? So we go to Van Nuys and start looking at all these cars that failed. I mean, failed often. No EGR, it looked like, you know, looking at the numbers. And then I had them, can we do just a test, you know, not a real test, but just off the record test. Kind of passed, you know. So it didn't pass yesterday, and it passes today, you know, what's going on. And so I started, all these cars are sitting over here, where Oldsmobiles were going to get tested, but we stopped them. So I started going down the line trying to see what might be going on. And I was filling with the EGR system, and I pulled the hose off, and it's got soap all over it, the hose. And there's a little pinhole for a vacuum bleed. It's the way the back pressure EGR worked, was plugged right off with soap. And I go, holy cow. So I called back to Lansing, where we were building the engines. So I says, how's this soap getting in here, plugging up the system, you know?
The air bleed.
Yeah. And they were having trouble putting those hoses on, so we told them to use this soap, but they're supposed to put like 2 drops in a gallon of water, you know. Well, they were using the soap straight. They were just dipping the soap in a tub of soap and sticking them on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you know, that was the kind of detective work you had to do. Another little story, I was working at the desert, and the guys that were working on the 81 system, C3 system they called it, were on a test trip coming out. So we had to get out of their way, because they were going to come in, park their cars, and then run an emission test after they got there. So Rich Taylor and I took all of our cars, put them aside. These other guys pulled in, separate cars, they run them in the morning, and they all failed emissions. Terrible. Like the catalytic converter wasn't working, all right? And I'm just standing back, and these guys are, you know, spinning in tight circles and trying to figure out what went wrong. Mm-hmm. And they started testing the fuel that fortunately, when we run a test trip, we take a sample of the gasoline every place we fill up. We used to have test trips, because you could get into drivability problems depending on the volatility of the fuel, okay? And these guys had filled up in a little place called Sholo, Arizona. I know Sholo. And they got leaded fuel in a no-leaded pump, okay? It ruined all their catalytic converters.
Oh, jeez.
Well, I just kind of remembered that. I mean, I knew leaded fuel would ruin catalytic converters, but that was kind of a real-world experience. Okay, So I got subpoenaed to go to the 14th floor to talk to EPA about Oldsmobile's field emissions. Apparently they got a few cars that they did an audit and didn't pass. Okay. So I remembered that story, and I just said, "Oh, I want to tell you about a little thing that happened to us, real world. All you need is one gas station out there putting leaded fuel, mixing it, or putting leaded fuel in. It'll ruin everything we're doing here, And they let me tell that story, and they let us go, and never heard another thing from it.
Wow. Very interesting.
So those are little. There's probably more out there that I can't even remember, but those are kind of big ones. I never. That was what they call it, deputation. What they have over. The guys, the lawyers just ask you the questions, and there's a recorder. But you're sworn.
Yeah. What's the word?
Yeah, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
But that's the only time I ever had to do that, But they wanted, somebody volunteered me to go down and talk to them.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
What's the word? I can't think.
Yeah. It's something like somebody's going to be. You ought to know that stuff. You haven't been called into court?
I've never been called into court.
Okay. By the way, what's your degree in?
I did a Latin America regional focus at the Air Force Academy.
Latin America regional focus. I wouldn't have thought they'd offer a degree in Latin American regional focus.
That's exactly
I
what
thought he was
thought.
going to say
Mechanical engineering or espionage 101.
aerodynamics or something.
Well, we do take those classes. So I
Sure.
took an aerodynamics class. I took mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, astro. We did satellites and orbits,
I know,
calculus.
we didn't do that at GMI. No satellite and orbit class at all.
Deposition.
Deposition.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job.
I never had to either. And Mr. Kerner apparently spent a fair amount of time
I bet you he
defending the
could do a
diesels.
good job, though. Oh man, he could answer the questions the way they needed to get answered.
Well, if we're done pontificating about history, we'd like to see your hot rod.
No,
But don't let me
no.
break up the
No,
party.
we got to get this done.
I just have one last question, and it's, again, super general. Is there any, super specific facts or something that you think a lot of people out there might not know about any of the projects you've worked on or anything you've been involved with?
Secret stuff.
Well, not secret, but maybe details.
Yeah.
I know I had a ton of questions this morning for Dennis because, I own a W41.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask him some stuff that I couldn't find online. Is there anything you've worked on that you think people would, love to hear about or love to know that they wouldn't know right now?
I don't know. Maybe I'll come up with something by tomorrow. Or us talking around the breakfast table will bring something up. No politics tomorrow then, huh? We'll probably better stay with automotive.
Probably that'd be good. Mr. Porterfield's not going to be there, but I think Dennis will be there and Bob ought to be.
I'll email Porterfield and see if he's got that document.
Oh, good. Thank you. That's what makes Oldsmobile an Oldsmobile. That'd be an interesting read.
Bill, he might have that squirreled away.
We saw his kitchen dining area, and it's incredibly well organized, but it's almost a total sea of paper, all in slots and I mean he's right up to here and looks like putting together the manuscript of the Aerotech.
Aerotech?
Yeah.
Why? I know he's worried because he's not well. He's worried he ain't going to get it done. You know, he kind of sensed that urgency.
Well,
yeah, us guys are all getting old.
I hope he gets it done, and I hope he gets well and lives a long time further. But yeah, it's troubling when I hear some of his issues.
Yeah.
Well, nobody's getting younger, but we can still think we're 14.
Yeah, we still can think. But man, just walking's getting to be a trick.
Well, you
Be able to be the exclusive on these run flat tires, and they were, but they needed a different wheel diameter on, and a rim. There was a special rim, okay, and the inside was smaller than the outside a little bit for some reason. I can't remember why. So it was going to be a big deal. You know, once you get away from the standard, you know. But that was their idea, and they wanted to show it off. I said, okay, so they made a set of wheels for Aurora, and they had a set of wheels for a Jeep Cherokee, and they wanted us. And we wanted to. I said, well, we got to show this to the design staff people. If we're going to do anything that changes parents significantly, we got to get them to buy in. So we set up a ride at the oval track at Milford, the old track oval, and Carol Ely headed it up. He's a retiree that worked for me that was very meticulous. So we had about 3 or 4 design staff people there, and they loved anything to get out of it. They wanted to get out and be with cars, you know, anyway, so they were at the proving grounds. And we had whoever the ride people were on the Aurora were there. Well, come to find out, this Jeep Cherokee belonged to Chrysler Corporation, and they loaned it to Michelin, and Michelin brought it to the GM proving grounds. Oh, okay. Oh, so, okay, see where we're going with this.
Yeah.
All right. So we went through, here's the instructions, no evasive maneuvers. Of course, the ride guys just love to get a car to slide sideways or, you know, try to trip it up.
Sure.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. And there was and that would have been in the right place and okay to do that, because you got to go through those kind of maneuvers before you're going to buy off on anything. But you do that on Black Lake or some skid pad somewhere. Well, this design staff guy was following some ride guy and watching what he did. He does a quick lane change and flips back. Well, the design guy driving the Cherokee does a lane change, flipped it over, rolled it. The driver's door flies open. No, the passenger door flies open. And the guy hits his head on the cement and it kills him. I was the lead guy to set this up.
Oh no!
And the guy was from he was from Japan, I think. I mean, he was doing a study abroad kind of thing at the design center.
There's a design center guy
that got killed. Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
So we're all, you know, Carol Ely, he was self-employed at that point. He thought he was going to get sued out of business, you know, and I mean, it was scary. The poor general manager at the proving grounds, what are you guys doing? You know, and we went through, we had to show them everything that we'd done, telling them what not to do, but they did it anyways, you know. So that was
way too much paperwork.
Way too much. Oh my gosh. So that was a very trying time right at the end of my career. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think by then I was probably actually contract at that time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of crashes, didn't Dennis's son Tom Weglars get promoted recently to A level?